And we are ready to run Heat 2A. We showed you earlier little recaps of the racing we had yesterday, so we have some of the Columbia Cup action has already been completed. Now the heat you're about to see is going to have 5 boats. Because we had more than 12, we should explain that the maximum you can have on the water at one time is 6. So the fact that we had 13 boats meant we had to divide them by 3 rather than 2. Here in Heat 2A, 5 boats, Mark, and 2 of the favorites are going to hook it up right here.
2 winners from yesterday afternoon's heats, and we'll take a look at the boats that are going to be out on the race course in Heat 2A. The 2 winners from yesterday would be the Miss Elam Plus, Dave Villwock, you see at the bottom of your screen. We also have Jimmy Shane. He's the rookie in the U1FormulaBoats.com, and he will be on the outside about 5 seconds back, and he will be trailing the field as well. David Williams in the U48, he did not get started yesterday, and so he comes into the second round of heats with 0 points. John Theoret, the other winner that's in this heat from yesterday, the U37 Miss Beacon Plumbing. And we had the list, on the list up there was the Conover Insurance, the U9 as well from yesterday afternoon. You had a pretty good day, second place run.
Had to be very pleased with that, driving for Mike and Lori Jones. They don't do a lot of racing. Last year they confined it to Tri-Cities in Seattle. And this year we were pleased to see him bring it out of the Enumclaw barn one more time. Watch this race now between John Theoret and Dave Villwock. It has been a perfect season so far for Villwock. It has been disappointing for Theoret. He is one of the few guys who has beaten Dave Villwock since he's become the driver of the Elam Plus. He would like nothing better than to do it here this weekend and say, see, we are back. I also want to mention that Jimmy Shane's situation will be a little bit different than the rookies yesterday. He's been told, Mark, to start back 1 rooster tail, which is closer than he was yesterday, and he will be allowed to pass slow boats. And I know Jimmy was lobbying for a chance to go racing. He didn't like driving around in the back, so I'm sure he's happy with that.
And there is the U1FormulaBoats.com, driven by Mr. Jimmy Shane, rookie who qualified as an unlimited driver yesterday. A lot of inboard experience and 7 world championships.
Here's the U9. This is Chris Bertram, who made his debut here last year. A real hot shoe from the limited ranks, currently leading his class in national high points. This will be his 3rd event. He raced in the Tri-Cities and Seattle last year for Mike and Lori Jones. Getting a chance now to get back into the boat. Said he feels now like he's been here before. Quite a different feeling from the one he had last year.
Well, your defending champion is Dave Villwock in the Elstrom Elam Plus, and you see him going through the top of the west turn right there. Dave Villwock in that Dayglow orange, white, and a little bit of blue trim. And he is looking for a return to the national championship with 3 wins so far in 3 races on the ABRA circuit, and 54 total career victories puts him 3rd on the all-time drivers win list.
Want to explain to any of you who might be new to the sport, you see the clock that we put in the upper left corner of the picture. And we've talked about how you cannot start the race until that clock has ticked down to 0-0. What you can do right now is battle for a good lane. Obviously, it's better to be on the inside. That's the short way around the race course. But you don't necessarily have to be there to win, depending on the way your boat is set up. Dave Villwock makes it a habit to make circles through the infield in order to try to maintain the inside. He's coming through right now. You're watching John Theoret going up to the west end of the course. He's going to run the complete course as Villwock comes over toward us. This is John Theoret, a French-Canadian up from the Grand Prix ranks a couple of years ago, and established quickly that he is one of the really outstanding drivers here.
And our 5th boat in the field will be the U48 Miss Lake Ridge Paving, driven by David Williams. And you see the Lake Ridge Paving coming out a little bit wide as it comes off of that west turn. David Williams is the curator, if you will, the executive director of the Hydroplane and Raceboat Museum out in Tukwila, just south of Seattle. And this is really David's first race. He did a couple of heats last year, one earlier this year, but this is really the first full-time race and the full-time ride for David Williams.
Right now we have an interesting situation. We have boats spread around the race course. You're watching Dave Villwock now with 1:40 left on the clock. He has parked his boat in lane 1 way down at the east end of the race course. He's going to try to go slow enough around the 3/4 of a lap he has remaining in front of him that he does not cross the start line too soon. He's going to have to go very, very slow. It's hard for these boats to travel this slowly, but you're going to see him plowing a lot of water up the backstretch, and he hopes maintain lane 1. The rest of the field is going to fall in behind him, Mark, and unless Villwock moves over, nobody else will have a shot at the inside.
We're looking at Chris Bertram going through the Blue Bridge turn, and he will try to get inside. Jimmy Shane is supposed to be on the outside, and Chris Bertram now now has moved the boat into a position inside of him. But right now, Dave Villwock looks like he's almost trolling for salmon out there. He's going that slow, and that's just about as slow as they will allow him to go. I'm not sure that John Theoret isn't going to try to sneak in inside him. Let's take a look very closely at where those boats are. Now John Theoret speeds up. He's going to go ahead of Dave Villwock. He'll be in lane number 2. Chris Bertram looks like he will be in lane number 3 as they head up toward the start. About 33 seconds left to go. David Williams will be on the outside in lane number 4. And a rooster tail and a half, about 5 seconds back, is Jimmy Shane in the U1 formulaboats.com. Now they start to pick up the pace as they come to the entrance pin to that west turn, Steve, and it's Dave Villwock and then John Theoret.
So the lanes are established now. It's all about the clock. Watch the boats come down just as they go in front of our start-finish camera here. They'll be making their start, and they can't do that before 0-0. Villwock picking it up on the inside. Theoret is coming with him. They are at full speed, just about 200 miles per hour. Good start in the leader down into the first turn where our camera will pick him up. It's Dave Villwock on the inside.
On the outside, it is John Theoret. He will be the boat to the left. The orange boat to the right is the Elstrom Elan Plus with Dave Villwock as they go to the turn just in front of the blue bridge. Dave Villwock has stretched out about a third of a rooster tail lead. John Theoret in second place. Chris Bertram in the Conover Insurance comes off that turn in third place, and David Williams in fourth. And Dave Villwock streaks up the backstretch about half a rooster tail ahead of John Theoret.
Look at the boat speed from Dave Villwock's ride. John Theoret running behind him has a great view of arguably the fastest race boat in the world right now, and Theoret has to be wondering, how am I ever going to catch this guy this weekend and win the Columbia Cup? Villwock coming by now with a quarter of a lap to go to finish the first lap of Heat 2A, and he'd be on his way to a perfect weekend so far. Last year at this time, Mark, things were not going nearly as well for him.
No, he was upside down and in the air, but right now he's got a full Rooster Tail Plus lead as you watch those boats come down. Here comes Chris Bertram across the start-finish line, end of lap 1. Have 3. We go 3 times around in our preliminary heats. Looking down at the Blue Bridge turn as Dave Villwock now leads John Theoret through that turn. Dave Villwock with a very smooth ride. It's the smooth water out in front, and he's now opened up a 2 Rooster Tail lead over John Theoret.
As Villwock and Theoret came down the front straight, it looked to me like Theoret had settled back, pretty much resigning himself to second place. I don't think he had the Beacon Plumbing at full song, and perhaps that's a wise decision. It's going to be a long day of racing. You got to keep the boat in one piece. Second place points are not bad, and your chances of getting around this orange, keep it down. Chris Bertram getting very loose in the white U9 and the backstretch and gave us a little bit of a thrill there. That boat is not riding well. We hope Chris can keep it under control. Take it easy, young man. Here's our leader completing lap 2, Mark.
Dave Villwock in the Elstrom Elan Plus completing lap number 2. Look down the straightaways. They come right at us, and John Theoret completes lap number 2, picks up the white flag. A second place finish for John Theoret here would not be bad. They both were winners yesterday, so they came into this race each with 400 points. So they are going, and Chris Bertram has got a ride going. You can see on the camera, he's the white boat on the inside, and he is having a handful making that boat stay down on the water.
Well, he's finding out just how high he can fly it, how fast he can make that boat go. He has some control over that. As Mike Allen talked about in that piece we had before we went racing, his left foot controls the pedals that establish the height of the front of the boat with that wing between the sponsons. Probably finding out he's got to give it a little more downwing than he'd like to keep it on the water here, particularly in the second half of the backstretch. Looking at John Theoret continuing to give chase, but really not much of a threat to Dave Villwock, who is a couple of 100 yards away from another checkered flag, Mark Allen, and he's seen a lot of these in a great career.
He has, and he's seen a lot of these during this season. He's lost a few preliminary heats, some great racing with Stephen David in the Oboy Oberto, but he takes this heat, and John Theoret crosses the finish line at the end of lap 3 to take second place, and we're watching him as he heads down toward the Blue Bridge. It's a ways back to Chris Bertram, and he's running in the slop that the other 2 boats have created.
We are receiving word that Chris Bertram may have contacted a buoy. Now, contacting and destroying are 2 different situations. We'll have to get more clarification on that. But look at that boat ride. He's way up in the air again. And apparently when he got loose back there, he did hit one of the buoys, and there may be a penalty there. We'll get more word on that from the officials. I want to mention to those of you watching the race you just saw and seeing how fast Dave Villwock's boat is, watching John Theoret giving chase, wondering how could Theoret ever beat Villwock? Well, it's that milling period. It's establishing the inside lane at the start. If if Theoret can do that later in the day, he is able to run with Vilwalk. So it's not a given yet that Vilwalk's going to win this whole thing. We have a long ways to go. Chris Bertram is running an extra lap up the backstretch as we watch Jimmy Shane shutting down inches before his finish.
And David Williams is running at speed as well, so we'll have to check that out. We're looking right now at Jimmy Shane. He shut the boat down. We had a sound that sounded a little bit like a gearbox going bad as he came off of the turn, and he shut the boat down, so we'll have to see. Obviously, the hatch is not open at this point.
They had some gearbox issues with that boat during qualifying and testing. It's their backup boat. It is not one of those Budweisers that they purchased from the Little family that became the FormulaBoats.com. That boat badly broken in the Gold Cup at Detroit, under repair currently in Seattle. They hope to have it back soon. This, the backup boat, the one they started with, formerly part of the Fred Leland Navy with a brand new red paint job. Now, Chris Bertram and David Williams have crossed the line again. The order of finish we are hearing is Dave Vilwalk, followed by Jean Theoret, and there is some discussion from there on as to who will finish third, fourth, and fifth. So we'll hold off on that until we get official word from upstairs. We do know that the first and second places, 400 and 300 points, are going to go to Vilwalk and Theoret. Let's go down to Scott Reister in the pits with one of the drivers who just came off the race course. Scott, go ahead.
Not just one of the drivers. How about the winner, Dave Vilwalk, another heat victory. You got to feel pretty good about the way this day is shaping up, huh?
Well, the boat's running good, so we'll just keep taking swings at the plate there. That time we got a good lane position, and we're able to run well, and the water's good right now, so that's a plus. Hopefully that pesky winds won't stay away.
I was going to say, last year you had that flip out there. Does that enter your mind as you're kind of hitting the pedal there?
I got to say, we're happy to get through the first heat on Sunday.
All right, well, business as usual is Dave Vilwalk, another heat win. Steve and Mark, back to you.
Watching the flags, which 99% of the time tell us exactly what's happened officially, nothing changes among the first two. The Elam Plus first, Miss Beacon Plumbing second. Third, I think Bertram got the checkered flag for third place, Mark Allen.
That's the way the flags looked, and then David Williams was behind him. We have a look at where Chris Bertram hit the buoy. Let's take a look at that.
It was on the backstretch running up the Pasco side. He got so loose right here, I thought he was going over. But the young driver, he hit a buoy right there. I say he center punched it. My goodness, that's not a close call, as many have been. And it is dislodged, which, by the way, is a different situation than just bumping one. Now, I don't know why if he was penalized a lap, that David Williams would still be behind him. One of those things we can't explain without further explanation from upstairs. But officially, the way the flags flew, it was the U9, Bertram still in third place, and the Lake Ridge Paving back in fourth.
Well, we're watching Jimmy Shane and the U1FormulaBoats.com. He floated across the line at the end of his lap. I don't think that was going to count, and he will be established as a did not finish, but he actually did complete his 3 laps, Steve, because he floated across the line.
Under tow, I would presume that would count. You could, with the current here, he would have finished eventually. Anyway, we have a lot more racing for you today. We have barely begun. Heat 2B is up next after a brief pause. We'll be back on the Columbia River. The Lamb Weston Columbia Cup continues after this word.
We are back at the start-finish line for the Lamb Weston Columbia Cup 2007 with the final results from Heat 2A.
Well, we believe that indeed, as we suspected, David Williams was penalized a lap. Chris Bertram was penalized a lap, and David Williams was the benefactor of that, moving from fourth up into third place. So, if you're keeping score at home, Dave Vilwalk still the winner, Jean Theoret in second place. Third place will go to David Williams in the U48 Lake Ridge Paving. Chris Bertram will be put back in fourth place. In the U9 Conover Insurance, the white boat, after taking out a buoy, Jimmy Shane, even though he was towed across the finish line, is being scored as a did not finish, which seems kind of tough. Mark, back in the day, you had to be up and running on a plane to score points, but I know that rule has gone away. Apparently being towed doesn't quite cut it.
I think he floated across the line, and then they gave him a tow, but in any event.
I remember watching an inboard race years ago where a guy was frantically paddling a dead boat to get it across the line and score some points. So that's it for now from...
They're loud, they're fast, and full of power. That's the sound of a turbine engine, the same engine commonly used by the CH-47 Chinook military helicopter.
The motor itself, you know, we base it off the percentage of revolutions on the motor through the N2 side, which is the compressor side, and it spins at 16,500 RPM.
The G-forces in the corner will pin your head against the side of the cockpit and you almost can't pick it up. It's just an incredible feeling. It's not like anything else in the world.
When the driver's in the cockpit, the engine's behind him running at 2,800 horsepower, capable of running over 200 miles per hour.
Each boat runs on jet fuel and can hold about 80 gallons. At top speeds, they run through nearly 4.5 gallons a minute.
I'd say we use close to about 250, 300 gallons a weekend.
And you thought your car was a gas guzzler. At the Columbia Cup, Kevin Randall.
Ready to go racing in Heat 2B. We're less than 5 minutes away from the start. Jeff Bernard and the U5 FormulaBoats.com will be in the race. David Bryant, the U10 Haas Mortgage Investors. Brian Perkins, a rookie in the U21. And Dr. Ken Muscatel in his baby blue U25. All in this heat. That'll be a 4-boat heat.
Brian Perkins, once again, will be treated like the rookie he is. He has been told to stay back at least one rooster tail, but you will be able, Brian, to move up if you see an opportunity to do so safely. Here is, speaking of Bernie Little, one of his former boats, and I wanted to add a word about the tree, because my favorite tree story, Christine and Scott, is the year that Bernie got a call in Lakeland, Florida from Ken Maurer, a name you know very well here, one of the originators of this event and a longtime head man. He said, Bernie, I have bad news. Your tree is sick. They tell me it's going to have to come down. And Bernie said, quote, whatever it takes to save that tree, send me the bill. They did, and that's the reason the tree is still here today. So it's entirely appropriate that it's called the Bernie Little Tree. It probably wouldn't be here without Bernie and his checkbook. And Bernie, if you're watching today, good to have you with us. Here's one of your boats that you know very well, driven now by young Jeff Bernard out of the Seattle area. This is the U5. It has been changed a little bit to make it easier for us to identify. They told us they put some white stripes on it, Mark, and when he comes by here, I'm going to see if we can actually see them. Usually what they consider stripes are not big enough to do us much good. But here comes Jeff down the front straightaway. Do you see some stripes?
We see a stripe at the top of the tail and one on the inside as well. So Jeff Bernard is a little bit more easily identifiable for everybody along the race course. Here is the U10 Haas Mortgage Investors, and that boat is driven by Mr. David Bryant. He is a rookie this year, also started the season out in Evansville and qualified as an unlimited driver back there, and ended up the beneficiary of a couple of gun jumpers yesterday and a first place finish in his heat yesterday.
U21, the boat we mentioned, will be driven by Brian Perkins. Oh, we're looking at the U10 right now. That's Dave Bryant, who Mark just talked about coming by.
Bryant is not on the race course at this point.
Dave Bryant, by the way, is a flat bottom racer. You saw him listed as a 2006 Superstock champion. To a flat bottom racer, frankly, folks, this is pretty tame stuff. Those are small boats with huge engines, and flat bottom racers are known for being entirely fearless. And the fact that he has survived in that sport and done well would tell you a lot about Dave Bryant. The U25 is Ken Muscatel's boat. Here's a boat outside the race course. That is apparently Jeff Bernard looking for the front straightaway. He came through the infield. We've seen that mistake before. As you come from the infield toward us, it's hard to tell exactly where you're supposed to turn left. There's Ken Muscatel and the U25, Mark.
Yep. The fastest forensic psychologist in the world, and a boat that is a new ride for him. Used to be owned by Jim Harvey, but he bought all of Jim Harvey's equipment over the offseason and is racing this boat, which first raced back in 1993. The U25 Superior Racing. It does not look at this point, Steve Montgomery, like Brian Perkins and the U21 Myers Autotech will make this heat. We have boats cutting through the infield. That's Dr. Ken Muscatel, as you can see, plowing water over toward the backstretch. Jeff Bernard on the inside of the
Here comes Brian Perkins.
There he goes, and just in time. They have to be on the course and running and on a plane at the 1-minute gun, and he made it by about 15 seconds.
We were afraid that perhaps new boat gremlins were going to be a possible problem for him. Ken Muscatel pulled through the infield. Mark, I think he went through the area known as the DMZ. You're not supposed to go through some parts of the race course. It looked to me like he was in one of them. He has also parked it now in the backstretch as the other three boats are lining up to run up the back straight. Muscatel is going to get underway again. We hear talk of a possible fine. That would probably be monetary rather than position on the race course. Dave Bryant now way out ahead of the other two boats, one of which is supposed to be back even further, and that's Brian Perkins, the rookie.
When they come to the start-finish line, Brian will be on the outside, and he will be about a rooster tail or two back. We're looking at we're looking at David Bryant now. We were looking at Jeff Bernard, and Jeff Bernard goes by David Bryant on the inside as they really start to kick it up for the start about 15 seconds from right now, and they are at the apex of the turn. Jeff Bernard of the Formula Boats is in lane number 1, Steve, and David Bryant will be in lane number 2. No, it's Dr. Ken Muscatel in lane 2. As they come to the start, it's David Bryant in lane 3.
3, 2, 1, 0. It's going to be a legal start and a great start for Jeff Bernard, who jumped the gun once yesterday. This time he sticks his nose right on the line, right on time. Down into the first turn. The red boat on your right is the leader, Jeff Bryant. The blue and yellow one in second place is Dave Bryant.
And it's Jeff Bernard as they go through the Blue Bridge turn, kick up that big skid fin rooster tail. You can see Jeff Bernard powering around the turn and off the turn in first place. Dr. Ken Muscatel is inside there. You can see him. He's blue boat, and David Bryant is now in second place. But Ken Muscatel is giving him a good run for his money up the backstretch.
I was watching Ken Muscatel come through that turn. That's where he got into trouble yesterday and got into the rooster tail of Greg Hopp's boat. It looked like he might be doing that again, but he came through clean, and he's doing a great job of running up the backstretch on the inside. Now Dave Bryant is outside the rooster tail of Jeff Bernard. So Muscatel has a considerably shorter race course, but he's going to run out of water here. He's going to go into the rooster tail. He just didn't have a lane in there. Plenty of overlap for Jeff Bernard, no problem there, and Bernard's going to come down. He's our leader at the end of lap 1, followed by David Bryant.
Followed by David Bryant, and then closely followed by Dr. Ken Muscatel, about a rooster tail separating each of these boats. We're looking at Brian Perkins. He is in fourth place. He's the rookie. Had to start on the outside and a couple of rooster tails back. As we look now coming down toward the Blue Bridge turn, Dr. Ken Muscatel powers into the turn in third place. But off the turn is Jeff Bernard in the FormulaBoats.com. And now David Bryant has picked up just a little bit of ground through that turn. He's just a little less than a rooster tail behind.
These two boats are both former Miss Budweisers. Bryant's a little bit older ride, but it's been reconditioned nicely for Kim and Debbie Gregory out of Las Vegas. Their son Matt, now the crew chief, been around the sport a long time after a long career in flat bottom racing, and it's appropriate that they have a flat bottom racer in the cockpit in David Bryant now. We mentioned a possible fine, and the fine went to the U5 mark, and that would be as a result of that little sachet we saw over here during the milling. He got off the race course and went outside the outer marker. You can't do that.
End of lap 2. They do give him the white flag, though, so it's not going to cost him any points in position. David Bryant in second place. As we look up the straightaway as they come down, Jeff Bernard on your right as we focus in on him as they go through that Blue Bridge turn third time around. They will come by to get the checkered flag next time around. Jeff Bernard looks like he's got this race pretty well in hand. David Bryant about a rooster tail behind at this point.
Kind of like a friendly traffic cop. They told Jeff Bernard $300 fine and a warning. It's your final warning. Don't do it again. So we'll probably find him paying very close attention to exactly where the race course is next time he comes out. So our order of finish pretty well established unless somebody stumbles here. Jeff Bernard is going to take the Formula Boats through the west turn one more time, still being pursued by David Bryant, who's going to move up beside his rooster tail. But since he's running on the outside of the red boat, unlikely that we'll have a change for the lead, as our winner here in Heat 2B, Jeff Bernard, driving for FormulaBoats.com out of Decatur, Indiana, followed by Dave Bryant, rookie season, doing a great job in the beautiful blue and yellow U10, and he's glad to be running after some problems they had back east, Mark.
Yes, he is. They had a lot of problems with tearing up the bottom of the boat. Actually missed the third race of the season in Detroit. Our third place finisher, Dr. Ken Muscatel in the Superior Racing U25, that beautiful baby blue and candy apple red hull.
Brian Perkins still has a quarter of a lap to run in the U21, the Myers Autotech, and that's a little bit of a surprise. I thought that he might stick that brand new, brightly painted hydroplane up into the fray just a bit and perhaps do some racing with Dr. Ken Muscatel. Either he's content to be a back marker at this point and just score some points, or that was about all the brand new boat had for him.
Well, I think what we can see, if we can get one of our cameras on it, up in the west turn, there's some blue smoke, and that came out of the U21 Myers Autotech. It's a problem that they have had throughout the weekend. They've had a gearbox problem getting some oil that did not quite get where it was supposed to be, and off of each turn he has a
see, we kind of a hazy blue here over the turn. The only reason I wasn't concerned about that is they did that all weekend during testing and qualifying. Even when they ran their very best laps, they left that trail of blue smoke behind them. So our winner, Jeff Bernard, a good weekend for the youngster so far, except that yesterday a little too quick. Jumped the gun. Today, a perfect start and a victory here in Heat 2B. We'll be back with Heat 2C and more here at the Lamb Weston Columbia Cup 2007.
Well, we finished Heat 2B, ladies and gentlemen, and Scott Reisters. Oh, that's Steve, you got something that you want to throw in here?
Scott, I think you're probably going to talk to Jeff Bernard, and he needs to know the officials want to talk to him. It has something to do with getting off the race course, and I think it's going to cost him a couple of bucks.
Okay, Jeff Bernard joining here, 22-year-old driver. Not the oldest guy on the course. I'm just told that you may have gone off the course a little bit, maybe incurring a fine. What happened there?
Yeah, I guess we got a fine, $300 fine. Just went off the wrong buoy. There's lots of buoys out there. Sun's glaring on the water a lot, and I just went for the wrong buoy. And thank God it's only a fine. We needed a pick-me-up for the crew, and 400 points is really nice right now.
So you'll take that fine if it comes along with a heat win, right?
I'll spend $300 all day long for a heat win. After yesterday, jumping the gun, we needed that 400 points bad for the Formula team.
All right, and he got it today in Heat 2B. Your winner, Jeff Bernard. Mark, Steve, back to you.
Well, here's the unofficial order of finish. You just talked to the winner. That would be Jeff Bernard in FormulaBoats.com. First place in Heat 2B. Second place to David Bryant in the U10 Haas Mortgage Investors. Third place to Dr. Ken Muscatel, the Superior Racing Team. And fourth place to Brian Perkins in that Myers Autotech. Beautiful paint job on that boat. All the different colors. We have one of the most colorful fleets in unlimited hydroplane racing history, I think, here in the pits right here in the Tri-Cities. And Brian finished fourth.
The interesting thing about seeing Jeff Bernard come across the course right at us, go around the wrong buoy, which put him closer to the beach than he should have been, is last year his teammate Mike Allen did exactly the same thing in a boat that was virtually identical. So the only two times we've ever seen that happen, it was identical boats. Last year, a little scarier because Chris Bertram was coming down the front straightaway and had to take a pretty serious evasive action to avoid a collision. Hopefully that's the last we'll see of that from those two boats. But I can tell you, Mark, if you've ever driven around a race course, it's not as obvious where the lanes are and between which boats you should go as you might think from here.
Coming back with Heat 2C. Well, check that, Heat 2C in just a couple of minutes.
Next up, Heat 2C, four boats coming onto the water. Steve David brought the Oh Boy Oberto out early, as he often does. One of the favorites here in a number of ways this weekend, Mark. And I think we have all four boats up and running.
Jimmy King in the U3. You just saw Jimmy interviewed. He threw a prop yesterday and didn't finish, so he needs some points this afternoon. We just mentioned Steve David in the U6, Oh Boy Oberto. J. Michael Kelly in the lime green and lime yellow U13
is not up and running
yet.
And that has been a story in the pits, as Scott Reister just reported. we hear now that they are having some issues getting that boat off the trailer and into the water. So we have to hope, for the sake of J. Michael Kelly and his owner from Detroit. There they are in the water. Good shot, guys. And you see them working with the driver. They still have some time, a couple of minutes, so not too frantic yet, as J. Michael has to be strapped in the 5-point harness, air and communications connected. That's what they're doing right now. Hopefully he'll be back out here in plenty of time.
Taking a look at Jimmy King and the Haas Mortgage Investors 2, the piston-powered unlimited hydroplane that you just saw an interview about the propeller, and that was one of the problems that Jimmy had yesterday. It fell off the back of the boat. It literally actually severed the drive shaft. Jimmy King, the only piston-powered driver here in the Tri-Cities or on the ABRA Unlimited Hydroplane circuit, but this is a boat that'll go with every one of them.
We mentioned that Steve David came out early. For those of you joining us for the first time this weekend, this is a brand new state-of-the-art hydroplane owned by the 13,000 plus citizens of Madison, Indiana. They love their driver back there. If Steve David ran for mayor of Madison, it would be no contest. Now he has the boat that they have wanted him to have for many, many years. They know their driver is one of the best. He now has one of the best boats in the business under him. One of the drivers and boat combinations you have to watch this weekend.
Actually, we ought to watch both Jimmy King and Steve David. They put on one of the greatest shows in unlimited racing in Detroit in one of the preliminary heats 2 weeks ago, and that was just absolutely amazing. A little less than 2 minutes, and we've got Greg Hopp that we're looking at on the race course right now, coming down the front straightaway in the Mirage Racing, MirageBoats.com.
And here's an old favorite, the familiar Captain America paint job, red, white, and blue. Greg Hopp, a veteran now, driving for Fred Leland, as he has for many years, back to the glory days. You remember the Pico American Dream and the Zenetics Victory here. These are pretty much the same boats, getting a little long in the tooth, but still able to get around the race course. And Greg, excellent starts, good driver, could be a factor here.
And J. Michael Kelly, the U13 Spirit of Detroit, makes its way onto the race course. About 21 seconds to spare, as we mentioned during Heat 2B. They have to be on the course and running on a plane at the 1-minute gun, and we're 14 seconds away from that right now, and we're starting to get folks parked in the lanes that they want, although Jimmy King is well behind. J. Michael Kelly is going to be that lime green and sort of lemon yellow boat. Look at the backstretch, and we'll see the Oboy Oberto, and just to his right, just barely to his right, is Greg Hopp, and J. Michael Kelly is going to be out in lane number 3. This is not unusual. If we can get a shot of Jimmy King, he is just coming off the turn, but he now has 44 seconds. He will be on the outside, and Jimmy has already kicked it up, and this is a tactic that he has used throughout this season, Steve, to get a good jump on these piston boats.
So Steve David has established the inside. Greg Hopp is next to him. J. Michael Kelly is up ahead of them out in lane 3, and he will have to slow down just a bit as he makes the turn. And already Jimmy King, moving up on the outside with piston power, has caught the field. He will come flying around him. He'll be the 4th boat out. He may go inside of J. Michael Kelly, as Kelly has swung very wide to scrape off some speed, and he will. There they come. It's Steve David on the inside. He had to slow down just a little bit, and watch Jimmy King now. This is what you talked about, Mark. He's going to come by with 3, 2. Everybody has to slow down, but I think they're legal.
This should be legal. Should be a good start, and Jimmy King actually led him across the line. Steve David on the inside. You'll see him on the right-hand side of your screen, and the next boat is the red boat, and that is Jimmy King in the U3 Unlimited Hydroplane. Steve David has the inside lane, but Jimmy King is right on his hip as they come to the exit of the Blue Bridge turn. First boat to poke its nose out will be the Oboy Oberto and Steve David.
Very tight in there for Greg Hopp. He was in between rooster tails, but he got through the turn okay. Our leader up the backstretch is Steve David out of Lighthouse Point, Florida, in his brand new Oboy Oberto Miss Madison, being pursued by Jimmy King with piston power, just about a rooster tail back. And then J. Michael Kelly and Greg Hopp look like they're going to hook it up for a pretty good race here for 3rd place. It'll be Hopp on the inside of the field and Kelly way on the outside.
Steve David comes off of that turn, the west end turn of our 2.5-mile Columbia Cup race course. He is in first place as they come down across the starting line to end lap number 1. Right behind him, 1 rooster tail back, is Jimmy King. We're looking at J. Michael Kelly. He comes across in 3rd, He's now almost a full rooster tail ahead of the 4th place boat, and that's Greg Hopp in the MirageBoats.com. Meanwhile, Steve David hits that Blue Bridge turn, and he kicks up that skid fin rooster tail. He's out ahead of Jimmy King by quite a ways.
Oh, Jimmy King has gone dead in the water. More problems for the U3 as Jimmy King, right at the entrance pin to the Blue Bridge turn, lost power, turned right over toward the pit area. I was concerned that he might get in front of one of the outside boats coming down, but they managed to avoid him okay. 3-boat race now. Steve David in first place. A couple of rooster tails back to J. Michael Kelly in that bright yellow and green boat. He's got to keep that on the water, flying a little loose back there. And then Greg Hopp, 2 more rooster tails back in the Mirage boats. Everybody getting loose the second half of the backstretch as they get into the wind at top speed.
The wind has come up just a little bit more than we saw it in the first 2 heats today, and certainly yesterday the water was almost like glass. End of lap number 2, and this is Stephen David in the Oh Boy Oberto, now looking at J. Michael Kelly as he flies the boat just a little bit down the front straightaway and across the finish line at the end of lap 2 for him in second place. And now comes Greg Hopp across the line. Stephen David third of 3 times around as he heads for that Blue Bridge turn one more time. J. Michael Kelly giving chase, but I think has pretty much settled into second place.
Steve David putting out a little bit of blue smoke at the apex of that turn, so something aboard the Oh Boy Oberto might be getting a little warm as well. And now J. Michael Kelly puts the foot down. He's going to give chase up the backstretch and take one more run at Steve David, but the brand new brightly colored Oh Boy Oberto responds nicely to the throttle. Steve David with over a rooster tail lead. He's going to cruise through the final turn, and this one will go about the way the handicappers would have picked it. Steve David with a quarter of a lap to go in lane 1. J. Michael Kelly will be second place unless something goes wrong there, and Greg Hopp back a bit in third place.
Off the turn, Stephen David, you're looking at that beautiful red, white, green, and now silver Oh Boy Oberto, a brand new color added to the scheme this year. End of lap number 3, and the checkered flag for Stephen David in first place. Second place to J. Michael Kelly in the Spirit of Detroit. Greg Hopp now just coming off the turn, and he will finish in third.
Great news really for Dave Bartush and J. Michael Kelly and the Spirit of Detroit, because they almost didn't make this heat, and scoring 300 points instead of a DNS is huge when you are trying to make your way into that front line of the final heat. So I'm sure that they are about as happy in the U13 pit as they are in the Oh Boy Oberto area. The handicappers, as I said, would have picked Steve David to win this one, so it ran pretty true to form.
Well, you know, J. Michael Kelly has a couple of second place finishes now, so he's going into heat number 3 in a pretty good position.
We have a while, Christine and Scott. As you know, there's a break in here while we do an air show and a couple other things. We will redraw all the boats, set up 3 more heats for you. It'll be heats 3A, 3B, 3C, and after that we will know who the front line runners will be in the final heat. So we have some boats in pretty good shape and some that are going to have to scramble a little to make that final. But we've had great racing so far. It should get better when we draw for 3A, 3B, and 3C. We will let you know when we have that and come back up.
We are just about set to take a little bit of a break from the start-finish line. KNDU and the Lamb Weston 2007 Columbia Cup will be back with more racing, a lot more racing this afternoon, so don't go away. Back at the start-finish line, the Lamb Weston Columbia Cup 2007, Heat 2C in the books. Unofficially, well, we can tell you at least officially that Jimmy King did not finish, and he's got 2 of those now. Scott Reister down in the pits, got the winner.
That's right, Steve David here. Got to be a happy guy. The boat ran great yesterday, but I know you got that penalty. A little happier today, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, I messed up yesterday. The Oberto's a phenomenal boat, and yesterday I wasn't a phenomenal driver, and today I'm back in. The team beat me up real good last night, strapped me down, beat me real bad. So today we're here to win this thing, the whole thing for the Oberto.
And running pretty great, huh?
Boat's running great. I can do whatever I want with the boat. I'm getting more and more comfortable. This is only its 4th race, but the Oberto is here to win this race this weekend. We're going to give it everything we can.
I think Muscatel had some problems reading the buoys. Bernard did. Is it kind of an issue in your mind this week as far as being able to fight the sun and figure out that course out there?
No, I'm very old and I've been around this course a long, long time, so it's kind of ingrained on my head. And I've got some wonderful spotters that also tell me where I am. Cindy Shirley, Larry Hansen, and Mike Hansen do a great job of making sure I'm in the right place at the course.
All right, speaking of right place, I think we should get out of here so we don't get crushed by your giant boat. Mark and Steve back to to you.
Thank you, Scott. We have unofficial results. Obviously, Steve and David, the winner of the Heat 2C and the Oh Boy Oberto. In second place, the Spirit of Detroit, J. Michael Kelly. A couple of second places now for him, so he's in pretty good shape. Third place to Greg Hopp in the U100 Mirage Racing, and did not finish for Jimmy King. So we'll have to see exactly what happened with Jimmy's boat. Yesterday, he threw a prop. They didn't do any damage to the bottom of the boat, and sometimes when they throw a prop, it goes up into the bottom of the boat, and a couple of times here on the Columbia River, the Cooper Racing Team, the U3 boat, has had extensive damage to the bottom of the boat and had to pull out of the race, and even would have been questionable for the Seafair race the following weekend, but they thrashed and got some of it back together. But when they throw one blade off the prop, that does tear up the bottom of the boat. It also tends to twist the prop shaft into a pretzel. We've seen that several times as well. Last night, Jimmy did not throw a blade, and the prop shaft broke off cleanly, so the prop didn't do any damage to the bottom of the boat yesterday in Jimmy's heat. But we'll just have to see if he threw another rod through an engine. That could be a toast for that engine. Hopefully he didn't lose another prop, because those are pricey right now. And
you know, over the years, Ed Cooper and family have run their turbocharged Allisons so reliably. They very seldom had mechanical issues, and they've really been snake bit a little bit lately, not only with the propeller problem they had yesterday, but they've had more than their share of engine problems as well this year. Certainly a very popular boat among the fans and everyone else here on the Columbia River, and we have to hope that whatever it was that took them out of that heat is not something that is terminal for the rest of the day. As you pointed out, Mark, to break a propeller or any part of it and not damage your boat severely is very lucky.
And we're trying to get Scott Reister over to talk with Jimmy King, maybe Ed Cooper, somebody from the U3 Cooper Racing Haas Mortgage Investors 2.
That's Ed Cooper on the boat right there, hooking the sling up to his boat, and hopefully when he gets it out of the water and takes a look, he'll have good news for us. Scott Reister is in that camp. Scott, what can you tell us so far?
Well, right now it looks like it's docked right here. We're about to get Jimmy in a second. He's doing another interview. Jimmy King, the driver, right here, be able to tell us in a second. So, yep. We lost him. Hey, Jimmy. Yeah. What happened to the boat out there?
It looks like we had an engine failure, a rod failure in the engine, so we won't know more till I get into it, but one of those things that didn't want to play anymore.
Your gut feeling, do you have an idea how bad this might be for you guys?
You know, we've got more bullets in the truck. We got to see if there's any hull damage as the parts came through the engine, because it was going fast enough that may be a possibility. But, you know, it's racing. If it was easy, we'd all do it, right?
I know you got a smile on your face, but I know both heats I've seen you guys run, you really have been pretty smooth. Does that kind of irritate you a little bit that it just doesn't work out?
It's just part of the game. I mean, the whole idea is get around this thing first and get a jump on them is the way to go, and sometimes it works for you, and sometimes you got to work a little harder.
All right, thanks a lot, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so speaking of work, they have their work cut out for them before the next heat begins. Maybe they can make up those points and still sneak into the final. Mark and Steve?
Well, thank you, Scott, and that could be another one of the engines. They blew one earlier in time trials yesterday, Friday, actually, and so that may be the end of that engine.
Very similar to what happened to Ed last year. He came west with a truck full of motors, and by the time he got to Seattle, I think he was down to one.
Well, he started with 4 this weekend,
yep,
so
if indeed they'd lost another one, Jimmy called them bullets, but those big motors are expensive. Many weeks of effort to build one, and to have them busting up like this for Ed Cooper is heartbreaking. We have much more from you from the 2007 Lamb Weston Columbia Cup, so stay with us. We'll be right back.